today's contractor CRMs. You hit a button. What's my sales? Let me see my sales report here. What's my close rate? What's my demo rate? What's my NSLI? You can see all the KPIs today, where you had to physically go back and look. Marketing reports, you had to go back and look and manually go through it and enter data somewhere with a calculator. You probably had a staff of people, if you were a large, sophisticated contractor back then, doing this for you, what these CRMs do with the click of a button.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Build to Win podcast. I am Jonathan Weinberg. I'm here with my co-host, John Kolbaska, and we are here today to talk about what is a CRM? Why do you need one? And what else is going on in the tech stack these days? So that's something that we realized. We were just chatting before the episode and we realized we haven't really talked too much about it. Obviously, I have plenty to say about CRMs. I know John's very adept at this topic as well, and figured this would be a great time to kind of go into depth on it. So looking forward to chatting with you about it, John.
Yeah, I mean, the podcast is called Build to Win, right? And you
tools and tech for the smart contractor. So that's what we're here to talk about, right?
Tools and tech, right? And you own the best CRM for contractors. And it's, we're like, hey, we didn't speak much about that. I think you told your story about how you founded Build to Prime, but I don't think we've really discussed how it's used in the everyday role, how it's used every day in an office and why that's important, correct?
Yeah. And so for those that might be curious about how things started and maybe some of the early evolution, they can go back to the very first episode of this podcast, where we both talk about those stories. But, I think we kind of pick it up today from where we left off and talk about, why is this so important and, what really makes a CRM good and effective and useful for the business and how to make the best out, kind of get the most out of it as well. So let's get into some other kind of components of the tech stack as well. But let's talk about to start out, like, what is a CRM and what does it stand for even? Customer Relationship Management System.
You remember when I met you, I said,
we don't need to bring this up again. We don't need to
bring it up. And you said, "What is a CRM?" To be fair, I mean, in other industries, they don't call it a CRM. They call it ER. Is it a E or
ERP? Yeah. So, I mean, for like really large industries, it'll be like an ERP. It's an enterprise. I think it stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, which obviously has customer information in it, but it's basically everything. It's the main hub to run your business. That's what Builder Prime is. It is the main hub to build your business. So even from a long time ago, I've always thought of it as like an ERP. But I think what resonates most with this industry, with the home improvement industry, is CRM. And that's kind of that's just the general nomenclature that's been adopted. But, CRM has been kind of conflated to mean a lot of different things. And sometimes people will say, oh, this is a CRM if it has a customer list, right? You have all of your contacts and your customer information, their email address, their phone number, and things like that. And that's it. And obviously there is a lot more to a CRM. And, sometimes we refer to Builder Prime just as a CRM, but obviously it's a lot more than what I think anybody would really say is, just the CRM. But to me, a CRM is more than a customer list, right? It is something that's going to help you manage your funnel. It's something that's going to help you drive more sales from the funnel. And it's the different kinds of tools and functionality that you're going to need to do that. So there's going to be a lot of variation amongst different tools and their capabilities around actually being effective, to do that, right? So a general customer list is not going to help you very much. You can keep track of it. It's basically, a spreadsheet. You can do that in a spreadsheet. You keep a list of customers in a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet can be your CRM. But as you're tracking, like within Builder Prime, we have our lead statuses or buckets. And as you're tracking your leads and automating the flow of those leads through those different stages of your funnel or your pipeline, that's really where, to me, the CRM is, effective or not. How well does it help you do that? How well is it helping you keep track of your leads, set the appointments, get them issued to the sales rep, get them through the demo phase and the estimate phase, and actually sell the job, right? And that's why, from the Builder Prime perspective, we've always approached it like we need all those tools, and we go beyond there, right? We go into pre-production, production, post-production, and so on. But we've always focused on making sure that we've got, the best in class tools available within those flows, including the scheduler, including the estimating, right? Because you can't sell a job without an estimate and a contract. So that's why that's always been built into the system, where a lot of other CRMs don't have that built into the system. That's part of what I think is really important for the home improvement industry, and is a little bit unique about the home improvement industry, is the way that estimates are done and built and communicated with customers, and then executed on the back end as well afterwards in production. So
that's a good point. But let's talk about like what a contractor was using 30 years ago before Build a Prime or any of these contractor CRMs, these cloud-based, even software itself could handle these things, right? And what many contractors are still doing today, right? So let's talk about like how a lead, I mean, at the end of the day, it starts with receiving a lead, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That starts the process, right? That's the start of your pipeline.
Yeah. However,
whatever it is, they call in, you call out, you get someone on the phone, they say, hey, I'd like an estimate, I'd like a quote, right? So let's talk about like what that looked like pre-CRM, right? And what that now looks like now. So John, go ahead. I mean, you've heard lots of stories from lots of different contractors about how they were handling things before they had jumped on the board with CRM, with Build a Prime. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how far we go back. If we go back 30 years versus, 10 years, or even some things today that are manual, right?
Let's go back 30 years, because you know what? There are still lots of contractors, and I'm looking at you because there are probably going to be a bunch of people watching this episode that are still operating their business like we did 30 years ago. Let's go back to before the digital age, right? Like when everything was manually done. How was that being done back then?
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, there was still Microsoft Office back then, and there was, spreadsheets and things like that. So that people could have been doing that, but probably not a lot, right? A lot of this was going to be on paper.
So a lead would call in. What did that look like? The secretary answered the phone, right? Somebody answered the phone. What did that typically look like?
Yeah, maybe on their flip phone or whatever they got back then, their landline. A lot of people still have landlines, but taking it down on paper, right? You have a calendar, like a big paper calendar sitting in front of you. You're writing down the people's information.
Or even a notepad.
Or a notepad. Yep. Notebook.
And if you were really, really good at what you did, you would have a sheet, right? You would print out a lead intake sheet that would have name, address, phone number, right? And any information you had. And you would take that sheet and you'd give an individual sheet. You'd print out or fill out an individual sheet for each customer that would call in, correct?
Yeah.
But most people are just writing down on a notepad or on a calendar, like you said, right?
Right. Yeah.
What's the issue with that?
Oh man, what's the issue with that? One, how do you find it? Right. Two, somebody changes and you're moving something along. Three, you have to be in the physical place where that piece of paper is in order to do anything with it. If you're not in that physical same place as that piece of paper, you're kind of stuck. What happens if you leave for an estimate, or you're leaving for a meeting, and you forget to take the paper with you? Like, where am I going? There's so many different problems that come up. It's really hard it's very hard to scale and very hard to be efficient in this type of a setting, right? And
with Build a Prime and the current web-based CRMs, you're taking that customer intake, that information, you're typing it into your computer or on the web, correct?
Yeah, anywhere there's a browser.
Cloud. Correct. Stored.
And accessible anywhere.
Accessible anywhere, right? At your office, out on the road, at your customer's house, correct?
I mean, internet connections are pretty ubiquitous, right? There are dead spots in places, but it's pretty ubiquitous. So that really enables a lot of this to work very effectively. But, even maybe it was not quite 30 years ago, but I have to say it's kind of impressive that there was a software specifically for home improvement that was starting to kind of handle some of this stuff. Market Sharp was, I think must have come out somewhere around there. And Tim developed that software, and that was kind of the gold standard for a long time for home improvement, right?
It was
So
not. It was not cloud based though. It was.
it was not. It did not start out. I think
Software stored on your hard drive on your physical computer in your office.
Yeah, we'll have to try to bring Tim Mush on here one of these days to talk a little bit about that because it's really interesting. And I feel like I heard a story. I don't know if this was from Tim or from somebody else, but I think he used to ship computers with the software pre-installed on it. I think that's how it kind of started out, if I'm remembering or heard that right. So yeah, that actually it's a really interesting story. So we'll have to bring him on to talk.
So I believe if I remember correctly, because I've been in this business for 30 years now, way back in the beginning, I think I'd become aware of Market Sharp probably somewhere in the mid 2000s, 2005, 6, 7 or something like that. And if I remember correctly, and I could be totally wrong, we'll have him come on here just to talk about it. But you're right. He would ship the computer with the software preloaded, and they did a really good job of being a CRM, right? Storing the customer's information. But they also, their thing was they helped you track your marketing dollars, right? Your lead sources and stuff like that. So it was more of a like marketing based CRM, right? And then it became sales and it slowly evolved. And I don't know if they'd really gone too deep into production, but they were one of the first, as far as I knew, CRMs, right, to really start tracking lead sources and stuff like that. I believe they even helped you manage, and I may be wrong, direct mail from it. Like they were heavily involved with direct mail.
I know they still at least have like integrations and stuff, and at this point, like you can webhook out data to these different
direct
services.
mail was huge.
Yeah,
in the mid 2000s.
I mean, still do it.
Still, I mean, yeah, if you do it right, it can still be effective today. But it's like Google is today, direct mail was back then. It was many companies' number one lead source, right? So if I remember correctly, they were heavily involved with that, and it helped track the campaigns and separate lead sources and stuff like that. So yeah, but Tim was the pioneer in this industry with that company, Market Sharp. Yep.
And then as far as like online CRMs and software, Salesforce was kind of was a huge pioneer for that. I just looked up, exactly when they started, when they launched. Looks like the kind of late 1999 is when they launched, which is really early for
Salesforce or Market Sharp.
Salesforce.
Okay, yeah, that's early.
So yeah, but they're the ones that kind of actually Salesforce is really the driving force behind SaaS. SaaS is SaaS, software as a service. It's all the different kinds of subscription-based software, typically cloud-based software that you see. So they were really the ones that pioneered a lot of that and that whole model. But yeah, that was kind of another big step in terms of the modernization of CRMs. But one of the other things that I didn't mention when I was talking about before, about what makes a CRM effective and everything, it's there's reporting too. The ability to report on that sales funnel is another thing that's
on the marketing and sales funnel.
Marketing, yep. The marketing and sales related to that funnel.
So going back to the old way, if you had asked back then, hey, how did you find us? And you happened to track that where the lead source came in, right? You had to physically go back through each lead intake form, right? If again, we're talking about, companies that were doing things a certain way back in the early 90s or mid 90s or even early 2000s, they would have to manually go back and go through each submission, each form, and track where the lead sources would come from. And they had to prepare it probably back then, maybe in a spreadsheet or something like that, or they just did it manually. That was their reporting. Remember, like lead sources and contracts, closer, everything was done manually.
Honestly, at that rate, most people I think are just going off their gut, right? They're not they're not running reports. They're not creating reports. They're just going off the gut, right? I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I feel like this one's working for me, and this one doesn't seem like it's working too well.
I mean, if you were sophisticated, if you were trying to run a sophisticated business, you put processes into your business where you track certain KPIs. Even then,
yeah. Well, sure, but it's at some point
it was manually done for the most part.
Yeah, and when it's manually done, it becomes if you're doing anything of any meaningful volume that you need to look at a report,
You hired people to prepare them for you.
you either hire people to prepare them for you, or it's just too much of a pain in the ass, and you just say, "I'm not going to do it."
Mhm.
Right? So yeah, it's like you're just kind of,
Which is done automatically today with today's CRMs, right? Contractor CRMs. You hit a button. What's my sales? Let me see my sales report here. What's my close rate? What's my demo rate? What's my demo rate? What's my close rate? What's my NSLI? You can see all the KPIs today, where you had to physically go back and look. Marketing reports, you had to go back and look and manually go through it and enter data somewhere with a calculator. And like I said, you probably had a staff of people, if you were a large, sophisticated contractor back then, doing this for you, what these CRMs today do with the click of a button, correct?
right.
So we talked about lead intake, right? Lead intake, the marketing funnel, being able to track that then versus now, right? So then once a lead was, an appointment was set, back then, 30 years ago, you would still physically go to the job site, right? The project site, and you would give an estimate. Now, there are some people today that are doing that remotely, right? Especially since COVID. But I think still most are physically going to the project site and giving an estimate, correct?
Yeah.
Right? And back then, how was that done?
Back then, how was the
how was an estimate given?
carbon paper?
Carbon paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
And written on
your
carbon
white,
paper,
yellow,
right?
and pink sheets, or whatever it is, and you write out, install 3 windows, 1 entry door. Here's the specs. Here's the price. Rip off the paper. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And there may have been, back then, there were 10-step selling systems that are very similar to today, but rather than having a digital presentation piece of software like Engage, they had flip books, right? Actual physical books and pictures, and it kind of looked like something that was done by hand, and but they were done professionally or printed, right? But it was go ahead.
I mean, no, listen, it's like, and that's what existed. I mean, expectations also from a customer's perspective, obviously were much different because the capabilities were much different. But if you went 30 years ago and took somebody from 30 years ago and transported them into today's age, they'd think it's all magic, right? Holy crap, how's this working? So, expectations obviously are a little bit different, but expectations are different now. Right? You can't do that today. People expect a different level of sophistication and convenience that you can't do with the systems that people were using 30 years ago. Right? So it's the expectations and just the standards have changed.
But there are lots of new contractors that are still operating that way in 2025, like we are talking about right now.
Yes. Yeah, of course. Well, listen, I mean, going back to, my founding story a little bit, one of the big reasons why I started Builder Prime was because I thought that the sales part of the process and the estimating part of the process was like outdated and inconvenient. Like,
and this
could be so much better.
And this is what year?
This was 2011.
So 14 years ago, it felt outdated.
Well, I mean, the capabilities were further along in 2011 than what my contractor was doing, right?
He was doing what we're talking about.
Oh, no, a little more than that. It was like, okay. I got a Microsoft Word, estimate,
okay.
And manually created in Microsoft Word, and, maybe copy pasted from some templates or something. I'm not really sure. But then I had to print it.
But he had to go back to his office to create that Microsoft Word document. So there was no in-home selling.
No transfer, one call close or anything like that.
No. He was writing everything down on paper, I guess, taking notes, right, to go back to the office.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And then say, well, I'll email you, because email was around back then, right? Sure. Or about 30 years ago. Before there was email, but
not everybody was doing it.
They were physically mailing estimates, right? To customers.
I would imagine so.
Yeah. Or going back and giving them a physical piece of paper if you did not have the carbon paper, but let's pretend like we were talking about, you had carbon paper, you filled out an estimate, you dropped it off at the customer, you left it with the customer, correct?
And then how do you get the signature back also, right?
Right.
And a deposit.
And a deposit. You had to go back, didn't you?
What if you're going 2 hours away?
And you did.
And that's the thing. Like either you still could have put it in the mail, or the customer could have put it in the mail. But there's like these are all, you know, this is friction in every part of the step, right? And even the 2011 version that I'm talking about, where I got the Microsoft Word document, you know, it's one is I wouldn't feel comfortable sending a Microsoft Word document because it was my job to print as a contractor, right? So it was my job to print and sign and send it back. I could have changed the price and just printed it out that way and signed it and like, here you go. Yeah. So, but even there, having
in 2005, in 2005, I always was looking. So in my, I just want to tell this quick story. And again, we're not doing this as a history lesson, right? We're talking about this. It's funny now, but we're talking about this because I know that we're going to talk about certain things, right? That we're doing or that we were doing that people are doing now. And it's really going to hit home because it's everything we're talking about, like you said, is the old way of doing things that created that friction, right? That friction in the process. So if you're still doing this, you're creating friction between you and your customer. You're making your job harder, right? So please be aware if you're hearing these things, we're telling you why you need to be using a CRM and adopting technology into your business, right?
And not only that, I know you're going to tell a story, but not only that, you're talking about the process. Even for anybody that's listening and has a CRM and has like relatively mature processes through their CRM, still think about where in the process is there friction and where can you eliminate that friction? The more places you can eliminate the friction, the more success you're going to have moving those leads and customers through your funnel. So there's always room to improve and remove friction somewhere in the process, even if you are relatively mature in your technology adoption. But I'm sorry, but go ahead, John.
Back in, like I said, 2005, 6, before there really was the option for CRM, even though you had mentioned that Salesforce was around that, I hadn't discovered them. But right before I discovered a CRM, I was trying to be sophisticated. So I actually went and purchased a physical printer and installed it in the back seat of my truck so that I could give an estimate on site. Yeah. So I had a tablet. I forget the name of the tablet, but I had a tablet that I was able to work from. And then I would go out. Was it a tablet or was it maybe it was not? Maybe it was later than that. No, it was a laptop. I was able to create on a Microsoft Word document on my laptop.
Yeah.
Type it up like your contractor did in 2011.
We'll go into the truck and type it up.
And then, type it up in the customer's home.
Okay.
And I would go into the truck, right? We would discuss it, plug it in to the printer, print it up right there, and bring the physical copy into the customer's home. Mm-hmm. If it was a contract, I was signing it. If it was a proposal, I was leaving it, right?
Yeah.
But again, let's think about the issues I had. I had a physical copy, right? Now I had a job site folder. I would create a folder for every estimate that I would give, and I would bring it back to the office, and then I would put it in the file cabinet, right? But how many times would I forget to print up 2 copies of the proposal, right? Or 2 copies of the contract, and I would wind up with 1 copy, and then it would be at the customer, and then I would go back looking for it, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot to print up 2 copies. Yeah. It's not in the folder. These are the issues I had back then, even though I was being sophisticated. I had folders. I had an organized folder. I had lead intake sheets with the customer's info. Like it looked like a CRM on physical sheets of paper, right? It looked like Build a Prime. It was set up like Build a Prime, but outside the web, right? Customer intake form, your client details, project folders. Don't you have project folders inside Build a Prime?
If you could think of it that way. Sure.
You create a project, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a project folder inside the customer, inside the client's details.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I used to do web-based.
Right. And functionality around each and every aspect of the different things that are in that folder. Right. So
It's hilarious because a bunch of the things that you're doing digitally now on the web, cloud-based, I used to do, but it was physically done there at the customer's homes or in my office.
Mm-hmm.
And it was there, like you said, and the challenge was being able to have access to any of that information in all different areas, right? Yeah. Incredible, right? Print it up, put it in the job folder, brought it back, kept a stack of folders on my desk that I was trying to sell that was active. And then after a certain period of time, they would go into the file cabinet and stay there for, I think in 2011, John, I think I had like 8 of those 6-foot metal file cabinets.
You were keeping Staples and Office Depot and all of them in business.
Incredible. In 2009, and then I said, maybe it was 2008, 2009. I said, there's got to be a better way to do all of this. And then I started scanning everything in and storing it digitally. And then I went to an iPad system back then, right? Brought on my first CRM, Zoho. It tracked customer information, marketing and sales, but no production.
Well, tell me about, so that's right. So I know you were on Zoho and then Market Sharp and then Builder Prime, right? So what were the friction points in Zoho? Like what about Zoho didn't really work well for what you were trying to do?
It had very basic reporting, right? It didn't track lead sources. At least
at this point, it must track lead sources.
It did not track lead sources back then. No, if it did, I hadn't figured out how to enter in a lead source. There was no lead source tracking. No, it was, maybe it did. We're going back 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe it did. Maybe
it's something, obviously something about it wasn't working.
There was no production functionality. I had to run the production side of the business completely outside of it. So I was like half on the cloud, right?
Yeah.
At least on the marketing and sales side. But then I was still running exactly like I described before, the installs, the projects in folders on my desk, giving it to the project manager, them going out to the job site with a folder and then having to put invoices and receipts in there and doing all the tracking, and everything was physically inside a job folder.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid I lost that folder. So that was, for me, that was the frustration I had with Zoho. Then I moved on to Market Sharp. There was some issues with Zoho on the marketing and sales side. I can tell you that because I had gone to Market Sharp because it was better.
Yeah.
But they still did not have the production functionality, at least when I had made the transition to you. I believe they do now, or they.
I know they at least have some they have some job scheduling and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, to me, that was what was really needed. That's what was really missing when you had come along, right? You had built out the whole production side. You just needed to build out the part that was already figured out. Everybody else had already figured it out.
Yeah, so it's actually, I want to I think it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about like my take and my philosophy around why a standalone CRM and a standalone production management system is not effective, right? Because that's a common type of tech stack.
Because that's what you were building, correct?
What's interesting is I think I was building the transition piece between the two, right? I was started out as like, you got the sales piece with the contract, the estimating and the contract, and CRM was like super light. It was like just that very basic customer tracking system, like the customer list, right? It was very, very basic at the start, but I was building out the estimating and sales and then the production, right? And this has shaped the overall philosophy of how Builder Prime has evolved, because that transition is incredibly important, that handoff, right? Because there's a lot of overlap between what you do in the estimating and the sales part of the process and what you do in the production part of the process to actually produce or install the job, right? So whatever you're doing on the estimate is also what you have to produce, right? And if you're doing the estimate in one system, maybe that estimate maybe that's even separate from your CRM, right? And then you have your CRM doesn't know what your estimate or your sale amount is. And then you're doing the estimate in one system and production in another. The production, you have to double enter again. Like, here's my scope of work that I sold in this job. Now let me go in my production system and double enter that again. Anytime you have double entry, mistakes happen, right? I mean, it's not that different from what you were talking about earlier and having the project folder and what happens if this, second contract was missing from my project folder or whatever, right? There are always mistakes that happen when you're doing double entry. So a core part of the philosophy is like, hey, you're building your scope of work for your estimate. You probably even need to know like what your job costs are at that stage to ensure that you're getting a profit margin on it. And then, when you sell the job and you're turning it over to production, don't you want to just have everything that you're doing automatically added to the schedule and know like what's involved in it, right? So, and not have to take that out and move it into a separate system where one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing. So these are all kind of core parts of the workflow and delivering that experience to your customer that, that they deserve and that they should be, and that they're expecting. So having those pieces together, that's why having a CRM, and there's other reasons too, like for reporting and other things too. But that's why, standalone CRM to me doesn't cut it anymore. Right. And that's why I think it's also really important to have industry specific software, because the home improvement industry, and it doesn't even apply to all like that. You can go to like home services, it's plumbing and HVAC and electrical and things like that. And it's completely different. Right. Even general contracting, design build. It's totally different. Or not totally, but it's a lot different. So having something that is, very specific to the way that home improvement operates, to me is incredibly important, because it is so unique and so specific. And you take some of those, kind of specific things away or try to make it too general, and it just doesn't work. Again, mistakes, inefficiencies, lots of problems. So, kind of taking this back to the beginning of what's an effective CRM, or what makes a CRM effective. And I think part of that is how well it works with the rest of your process, not just the marketing part of it, and not just executing the sale or tracking that a sale happened. It's everything that happens even after that.
Yeah, everything is naturally flowing through, right?
Yeah.
There's alignment between all departments.
Correct. Now, not everything, right? I mean, not every piece of your technology, and this is where we can talk a little bit about, other things in the tech stack or other aspects of the tech stack that you can integrate in and don't necessarily have to be, it's like part of that core workflow. And there's lots of other great tools out there for contractors.
Let's talk about the tools that integrate with Build a Prime.
Yeah.
Right? So naturally, the first thing you want to do, we talked about the estimating, but I mean, you've got QuickBooks Online, and we're not sponsored by QuickBooks. I have no clue we're even recommending them. But from what I understand, I apologize if you're hearing background noise. Today's the first day the kids are out of school. So there's a week between now and when they go to camp. So you're probably going to hear a lot of stuff going on in the house.
I think I smell pancakes burning downstairs.
It's crazy. QuickBooks Online, right? So you want to be able to take all of your job costs, right? Do actual job costing. You can do that with Build a Prime, correct?
Correct.
And QuickBooks.
You can do it with QuickBooks too. And actually, we're working on that part of the integration right now, so that it just automatically flows from Builder Prime to QuickBooks. But yeah. Well,
you can basically hit a button and push it over now, correct?
Not the job costs, no. But
but
that's what's. Well, yeah. So it's right now. It's you do it either in one or the other, or do it in both. But it's that part is still double entry.
Either way, yeah. Okay. Either way.
But that's going to be in there very soon. So
very soon, very shortly. What's some of the other programs that integrate with Build a Prime, John?
Well, the one other thing I'll just real quick about QuickBooks Online. It's not necessarily a recommendation for the software per se, but essentially, unless you've grown beyond what QuickBooks can do, and there's not a lot of companies out there that necessarily have, it's what everybody in the industry uses. I hardly ever come across anybody that's not using QuickBooks Online. So there's value in doing kind of the tried and true standard stuff that other people are doing in the industry. If you need somebody to help you with it, there are plenty of people to help you with it. I take the same philosophy when, if we're trying to figure out a programming language to use, it's use the popular one because there's always going to be support for it. So QuickBooks Online, it's just what everybody uses for accounting. So it's don't try to get cute with it.
What's the other popular piece of software there on the production side that links up with?
It's not just on the production side, but Company Cam is another one that's very, very popular. A lot of contractors out there are using. I know you're using it in your business, John, and it's one of those kind of invaluable tools that it's almost like a no-brainer just to go and get. Right, and it helps with it's job. I mean, the core of the product is job photos. It allows you to capture and store job photos. You can mark them up. You can share them with the customer. Right, there's it really helps with like a before and after and just documentation. It helps with like just kind of a CYA, cover your ass
documentation. Yes.
Documentation, right?
Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times we've taken a picture of the project before. I'll give you an example. There was a customer recently that we had installed a patio door, beautiful home, and they called us 2 weeks later and they said, you basically wore the finish off my floor by the door, right around the patio door. And we're like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, there's no finish, it's dull, so you're going to have to replace or get my whole living room and dining room area refinished you're going to have to pay for that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, and they're like, well, we started investigating, going deeper. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like a scratch. Like, no, it's the whole area. So we go in the Company Cam and we look at the project photos that were taken during the actual measure before the install with the old door there. Right? We asked the customer to supply photos, right? And they did. And then we go into our Company Cam and they have no idea that we even have this piece of software. And we go and we look, and there is the faded area around the old patio door, just because it's a high traffic area. The finish is worn off. And here it is dated with your old door. And we just said, well, that's interesting because we have photos here showing your old door with the same damage. So explain to me, what is it exactly that you want us to fix? And then they realized they got caught. And they're like, well, it was covered by a carpet. Maybe we didn't notice it. I'm so sorry. And they went away, right? I think you're talking about, refinishing an area, the hardwood floor, probably 1,000 square feet. You're probably talking about a $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 repair.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have Company Cam, the documentation to cover our ass, I would have had to pay out of pocket. Right?
Yeah.
It's just an example of what, how that helps save us from that one time where you have, unfortunately, customers, they do things like that. And I have other stories. That's the one I'll tell you. That's the most recent one. Yeah. But that's Company Cam can help with that.
Look, it paid for itself many times over just in that one example. Just
that one. And then the before and afters that we use for marketing, right? We'll take photos of the front of the house with the old windows or the old entry door. And then I believe you can even create sliders within it where it shows like the before and then the after, or if not, then I can pull it. There's lots of features, but from a production standpoint,
or even the salesperson that sold the job is making notes and using photo documentation to make those notes, and that's what gets passed to the production crew to make sure that things are understood and accounted for. And
the install team will the day before, or the night before, typically, or the morning of, will look at the job site photos of when the project was measured. So they'll see, like we have a process. We take pictures of the outside, all four corners of the house so they can see what they're dealing with. Then we take pictures of every single window, the exterior and the interior, so they can physically see what they're doing. And you'll be surprised sometimes they'll look at a job site and they'll be like, oh, we need an extra long ladder here that may have been missed by the person who measured it. And they show up prepared most of the time. Unless, that looks like an area that we're going to have to bring this type of molding from the warehouse. It's really helped us improve our efficiency. There isn't as much running back and forth to the warehouse and Home Depot to get stuff.
Yeah,
because they check the job through Company Cam the night before or the morning of, before they actually physically go. Yeah.
And Builder Prime integrates with Company Cam. It's one of the the favorite integrations.
Yeah, we pull all those photos in. Yeah, we
pulls it all in, so it's in your job folder, right? You got all the photos right there, and you can access them and comment on them. And it's just there's that sync process that happens. So yeah, another to me like another no brainer, right?
On the phone, right? All on your phone or on the computer, but stored in the cloud. Access to it anywhere.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So yeah, Company Cam is another great one, another no brainer to include in your tech stack outside of a CRM. There's other types of integrations that have been popular more on the sales side of things, right? A couple of those like Engage for and I'm hearing now a little bit about First Call Closer as well on the sales presentation side, and then you've got like Rilla or Zero for AI sales recording and analytics. There's a lot of tools coming out, especially on the sales side, that are gaining a lot of popularity, and that plug in, with the CRM as well. Because at the end of the day, the CRM or the CRM platform, the business management platform, is going to be your core. It's going to be kind of like that core hub, yeah, across your whole business, and you're plugging different other pieces into the hub, so you've got that single source of truth. So yeah, which ones do you find the most helpful within your tech stack? I think you're using Engage, right, and Rilla.
Yeah. So yeah, we've developed some of our own in-house software for our team that we use exclusively, that we may release to the market in the future, that help with the sales side, right? Like with sales, we talked about on the last week, needs assessment, presentation, closing, the whole thing helps you track a lot of that data. But then we use Engage for the digital sales presentation for our customers inside the home. And then we have some estimating software that we use. We also are using Rilla to record our salesperson's conversations in the home, so that we can coach and hold them accountable to anything. And I think that's pretty much our tech stack, besides Build a Prime.
Yeah.
Oh, no. We're using GTR.
Get the referral.
Get the referral afterward. Yes. And we love that, because what that is that's a piece of software where we can install it on our customer's phone. So, and once you have an app installed on the customer's phone, you now own a piece of real estate. So you can send push notifications, which is, as far as I'm aware, completely legal. There are no rules and regulations around what you can and can't send them, like text messaging. So it allows us to remarket to customers, and it makes it easy for them to refer us with some rewards and stuff like that. So that's helped increase our repeat referral rate quite considerably. It helps us generate reviews and stuff like that. And yeah, it's incredible. Like all of these things, how they've been, digitized or automated over the years, where they were, physically in a book or on a sheet of paper, and were done manually, back then. If you wanted to ask for 30 years ago for repeat business or referred business, you had to, ask the customer over the phone or in person, be like, give them cards and say, hey, can you give this to 5 of your friends and family? And this was what you were doing back then, versus, here's an app for you to download, right? This app will help you keep progress of the job site, of the job's progress. And, and there's other features inside of it where you can pitch it to the customer. And it's incredible the way where we are and how much easier it is to run and operate the business. Are there any other tech stacks I may be missing, Johnny?
Oh God, I'm sure.
You're involved with all of them.
Yeah, came in contact with another interesting company I learned about recently called QuickPage, and that's all about helping to make warm intros for the sales reps coming out to the home. So some really interesting things that they're doing there. Let's say there's a lot of AI tools coming out in terms of appointment setting and automated messaging and even voice.
So AI. Let's quickly dive into the AI. I know you've been wanting to have that AI conversation for a while, and I think we probably have 10 more minutes. I want to ask you, what are the plans for AI like integration or like an introduction of AI into your program here, Builder Prime? Like, what are some of the features that we can look forward to?
Yeah. So
if you want to share that.
I can share. Yeah, sure. I can share some of that. So we did our first very small little AI project within Builder Prime already, within the text messaging side of things, where it just gives you a suggested reply, right? It goes out. I mean, AI is really good at creating content or messages or that type of thing. So we have a little functionality. We call it Robbie. And the name was inspired by one of our customers. That's what they named our automated text messaging tool. Because we had a little robot. They called it Robbie the robot. So our AI is called Robbie. And so you can ask Robbie to suggest a reply to the text message conversation, right? It's got the full context of the conversation, and it can kind of figure out what you're trying to do with that. So if the customer sends a message in, you say, "Hey, Robbie, give me a suggestion," and it says, and it gives you one, and you can either tweak it before you send it or just send it or whatever. So that was the very first AI functionality that we built in. And, from here, we're looking to build that out considerably, right? So there's going to be a lot of advances here, I think, in the second half of this year, where it's going to do the automatic conversations over text for you. We may look to bring that, just to your website in general, right? So it's even before the lead comes in. Maybe you can, utilize that with just directly from the website. Also looking at voice, right? So that you can have, especially after hours, but have somebody that can answer the phones or an AI that can answer the phone to try to set an appointment. It's like some of this functionality is great. And at times it works really, really well. At times it doesn't. I think you still have to be careful, and you can't put your full trust in it just yet.
Yeah.
But it is getting better and better and better all the time and very rapidly. So before you know it, this stuff's going to be so good, right? And we're going to be ready for that, right? When it really makes sense to turn it loose, you're going to be able to turn it loose in Builder Prime, and we're going to have all that functionality built right in. But we're looking at building some voice agents.
You're going to have some call center functionality built in.
Yeah.
Well, AI call center and confirmation and
for confirmation, that's probably a really easy one. That's like a really good use case. But just especially for after hours answering the phone, sometimes these tools can, if you have an answering service, they'll do better than the answering service in terms of actually setting appointments.
So inbound leads. What about outbound in the future?
That I think you're going to have to be really careful about. There's a lot of, and if there's not already, I think there's going to be a lot of rules and regulations around what you can do with outbound calling with AI. So I would be really careful about that. I don't think there's probably not a whole lot that you're going to be able to do from that perspective, but we'll see. We'll see where things go with that. But yeah, so AI texting, automatic just text conversations and escalating to a human when necessary. Same thing with voice.
So these large call centers in 5 years are going to look completely different.
Yeah.
You're not going to have 300 people sitting in a call room. You're going to have one or two people managing the AI.
Yeah. And then, listen, there could be, and this is something we're starting to explore. I think this one's a little bit further off from actually being useful, but having, an agent, right? Somebody like an AI agent that is able to execute different tasks within the CRM and know when a certain action is required. Or, we have automations defined for some of that, but just making it that much more adaptable and intelligent to act as appropriately as possible in the moment. I think there's going to be these agents that actually operate the software.
What about being able to pull custom reports?
So we're working on right now implementing data warehouse.
Asking for
data warehouse tool with business intelligence, reporting, so you can plug in your BI tools to the data warehouse, get any type of data that you could possibly imagine, but also putting that chat interface on top and say, who performed the best in terms of close rate in northern New Jersey in the month of May, and for leads that came from Angie. And you just ask it the question, it goes away, boom, there's your answer. So-and-so had a 67% close rate with Angie leads in northern New Jersey in the month of May. And they were the best. And here's your second place, third place, fourth place. right? So that's another huge area that I think it's going to, and again, I think we'll see how good it's going to be good. It might not be all the way there that you can just and it's not, right? It's not all the way there that you can just blindly trust it, right? It is still making mistakes. It is not 100% perfect yet, but again, it's getting better and better and better all the time. It can provide a lot of value, really be really useful. And it's just going to get better from here.
It's incredible the way AI is changing this business. I just was told by my marketing director a week and a half ago, we are starting to receive leads.
Yeah.
Based on AI suggestions. So people are going to AI and saying, hey, who's the best window and door company in my market? And believe it or not, we're showing up.
Yeah.
Right? People are asking questions like, who has the best window, highest quality window? And it's actually showing us. And I find that interesting. So I have my marketing team looking at, we do have the highest quality window. We do, when it comes as far as energy efficiency ratings and warranty and stuff like that. We put that out there, but I'm trying to figure out how AI is pulling that data. I would imagine it's probably coming from the web, right? So it's not.
Yeah, it's pulling obviously from your website. It's pulling from your Google reviews, and it's pulling from anywhere that there's any information. But it's also like, I don't want to get into large language models and how they work here. I think that's it's going to be a little too technical, and but it's the way it's also just how large language models work. So it is getting and seeding.
I find it interesting because, and I know we're kind of going a little bit off topic, and then we'll stop after this. And if we want to go into a deeper AI conversation, maybe we could do that in the future with maybe somebody that is an expert in that too. Mm-hmm. But I find it interesting because I remember 5 or 6 years ago, on the marketing side of the business, people were talking about, blogging and content, that's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of people moved away from it, and people started going more towards just it. But it's not, right? But we continued to do it. We invested in building out our Google reviews, blog posting, keeping our social medias active. We have an actual person. We had a person in-house, and then we had somebody that was outsourced that was constantly doing that, constantly putting new information out into the web about our company, our products, our services. And it seems like, most of everybody was moving away from that. We'd stayed there, and it seems like we've been benefiting from that now with the introduction of AI.
Yeah, listen, there's SEO, search engine optimization, is not going anywhere anytime soon.
It didn't go anywhere, but it was like people almost started to move away from it. They said, yeah, it's dead. It's not as important. And it's like, I've always felt like, hey, if you're just putting good content out there, that was always a good thing to do.
Always a good thing. Yes.
Yeah. And I had no clue this was coming, AI in the future. 5, 6 years ago, you heard about it, but
if you haven't heard this term before, there's a new concept. We can talk about AI in all different aspects of the business, right? And even internal and things like that. But we're talking about generating leads. There's now, it's not SEO, it's AEO is the term. Answer engine optimization. And it's all about, how do you produce content that the large language models, the AI bots are going to utilize, right? And it's a lot of checklists and questions and things like that. A lot of long stuff. But I'm not an expert in it. I know some basic.
It's just incredible the way things evolve. You look at the way things change, and it's like, well, it's not SEO anymore. It's AEO, and it's like, wow.
Well, it's both now. It's like you got to do both.
You got to do both, right? And this is just like 3 years ago, there was no such thing as AEO, or maybe there were a few people that were talking about it, but it wasn't mainstream like it is. As a matter of fact, I've noticed, and again, I don't get into the daily management of these things, but even my marketing director is telling me, my digital marketing manager, AdWords is going all AI. So it's like you have to give it all this data now, and there's a lot less manual managing of your ad spend, which I don't know if I like.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like the better data, the more data you can give to Google and Facebook and these advertising platforms, the more return or the more opportunities you'll receive. I remember AdWords when you'd go in, you'd plug in your AdWords, you'd set up your negative keywords list. You did everything manually. You You spent hours and hours and hours of doing that. I think you could still do that now, but I think it's moving away.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how, somebody like Google tries to monetize. But anyway, I think we
went full circle. We went from operating in an analog age from in the early 90s all the way to today with AI. It's incredible. The point we're making to you guys is obviously the business has evolved tremendously in the last 30 years. It's continuing to evolve. So if you are still doing things in 2025 the way most people were doing it in 1995, you should probably start thinking about giving companies like Build the Prime and Engage and all these other tech companies a call and integrating some of this into your business. Because if you don't, you're probably going to get left behind.
Now more than ever, right? I mean, it's just with everything that's happening now, it's just if you're not embracing it, you are going to get left behind.
Exactly.
It's not even a question.
I think that's a perfect way to end our podcast, John.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in again. We'll be back with you again in a couple of weeks. Let us know in the comments if there's any questions or if there's anybody or anything that you'd like to hear about. So we'd love to get your feedback. Thanks again for listening.
Yes. Please like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, share this podcast. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Smash those buttons. Bye, everybody.
Bye.